The pressure is mounting on Mitch McConnell to pass the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act. The country wants police accountability and reform. 60% say we should do more to scrutinize police misconduct. The Washington Post reporting the concerns reaching peak levels in the last 30 years. George Floyd's killing sparked worldwide protests, a call to action for change. And this new George Floyd bill and its popularity is because of the work of activists. So Republicans are trying to stop the movement by introducing 81 anti-protest bills this year across 34 states, including Florida, where Republican Governor Ron DeSantis enacted a law he calls, quote, the strongest anti-rioting, pro-law enforcement measure in the country. But this isn't about rioting. This is about stopping a movement that is surging and popular.
This is straight out of the Jim Crow textbook.
It's a constitutionally unjust bill.
Almost a slap in the face.
We want to make it loud and clear that this is not communist China. This was Florida.
You have just declared war on the First Amendment in the state of Florida.
Joining me now, Florida State Senator Shevrin Jones and civil rights attorney Judith Brown-Dianis, executive director of the Advancement Project. Senator, what does the fact that the governor is choosing to prioritize this tell you about the priorities of Republicans in your state?
It just goes, well, first of all, thank you for having me, Alicia. Well, it goes to show you where the priorities of Florida is at. The priorities of Florida is not on COVID. The priorities of Florida is not on us making sure that the lives of Black men and boys who are being killed at the hands of police officers is being protected. The governor found the need back in September, not January 6th, to bring the idea that he wanted to make the toughest law in the country to make sure protesting becomes criminalized. And that's what he did. And that's what we are right now talking about when we look at the law that we're looking at today that has now the law of the land in the state of Florida. It takes us back to the Jim Crow era. They tried to silence us with voting. They tried to silence us with protesting. And the governor is once again is trying to silence a group of people. And those individuals are Black and brown who look just like me.
Well, Senator, this new law in Florida allows authorities to hold arrested protesters until a first court appearance. It requires local governments to justify a reduction in law enforcement budgets, makes it a felony to destroy or demolish historical memorials or flags. That would include things like Confederate flags. What do those pieces of the law, Senator, tell you about who this law is targeting?
Right, exactly, and that's the exact thing. When the governor came out back in September to make it clear of this law that he was going to come out with, initially he had a provision in there for stand your ground if a business owner felt as if their business was being threatened. That law came out after January 6th. When that bill was filed, they said that it was to deal with the insurrection, but not one time did the governor mention the insurrection when he had his press conference in Florida last week. And just what you just made mention of what the law allows, it's protecting everyone, but who should be protected. So let's be clear about something, Alicia, that the reason why the Black Lives Matter and the allies are out protesting is because of the silence that is happening within the state of Florida right now. And if we continue to go down this road, this legislation is not going to stop individuals from going out to make our voices heard. It's going to make it more exemplified to go out and go out to protest or to go out to demonstrate. And because the governor continues to do this, and because the governor refuses to do what is right for all the Floridians, the 22 million people here within the state of Florida, this legislation doesn't stop anything. As a matter of fact, it makes sure that we go out to make it known that we will not stand for the injustice in Florida and in this country.
Judith, this isn't just happening in Florida. Bills are being passed across the country, in Oklahoma, in Iowa. Their laws grant immunity to motorists who hit protesters. You know, I think about the voter suppression law coming out of Georgia and the fact that even people who might consider themselves apolitical went through the list of provisions in that law and said, you can't give someone a bottle of water at a polling site. That just doesn't make sense to me. I think people, again, who may not be tuned into this conversation, hear that you're making it legal for someone in their car to run over a protester, and they think, how can that even be legal?
It is absurd. And we have to, I mean, you did a great job, Alicia, of connecting the dots between what is happening on voter suppression and what is happening on the suppression of the First Amendment rights of people. And we have to connect it because what we know is that Black people turned out in record numbers at the polls. Black people and people of color and young people took to the streets last year. And the outcome of that election is what they want to stop. And they want to kill this movement because that they know that this multiracial movement that is coming together is going to get rid of them. And so they don't care. They would rather throw the First Amendment out. They would rather have people hit by cars in the street than make sure that people have the right to protest and to hold them accountable.
So, Judith, again, I would ask you who this is meant to intimidate, but the answer is right here again. A Minnesota bill would prohibit those convicted of unlawful protesting from, get this, receiving student loans, unemployment benefits, or housing assistance. So, yes, this is partly about race and ethnicity. It is also partly about socioeconomics. How do you then protect those communities? How do you engage those communities so that they can begin to push back?
Well, I mean, I think, first of all, there are going to be a lot of lawsuits on this stuff, right? We've seen the lawsuits around voter suppression. We're going to see lawsuits around the First Amendment. We should expect that we should have some of our friends, like the libertarians who are like unsuspecting friends, but who love the First Amendment, coming out on this, because this is what it is. It's an attack on democracy. And so we've all got to come together on this. And we know that what we're up against is very serious. People could go to jail without bail because they saw bail funds put together, because they know that we were able to organize and get people out when they were protesting. And so we're going to be fighting back everywhere. We've got to fight back because this is about our democracy and making sure that our voices are heard in the voting booth and in the streets.
You know, Senator, I asked you what this means for Republicans in Florida, but I want to take that even bigger picture. When you look at the voter suppression legislation we're seeing across the country, these anti-protest bills, what does that say about Republicans nationally?
They know they're losing. And so when you know that you're losing, you start moving the goalposts further and further away. And Ms. Judith just made it clear that we saw record numbers of voters come out in the state of Florida in the last election. And because of that, now you move the goalposts further and further. It's no different than the Jim Crow era in which we've seen this before, to where when Black folks started voting, you moved the goalposts. When Black folks started voting, you put more rules in place. And that's what's happening right now in the state of Florida and across the country. When you lose, you change the rules.
Florida State Senator Shevrin Jones and Judith Brown-Dianis, thank you both so much.
Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.